Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about how to schedule your Step 2 exam. I'm Kartik Goswami. I'm at M4 in my fourth year med school, applying to IM this cycle, getting interviews as we speak. So without further ado, let's get into what it takes to make a schedule, what type of schedule you should have, and how to go about studying for Step 2 in the best way possible. So before we begin, I have a free sample Step 2 calendar for 3 months. If you guys have 3 months of dedicated and haven't touched anything for Step 2, you need to go download this study guide. Even if you are studying and you have a different schedule, go download this. It gets you a great idea on exactly how you should be studying and structuring your schedule. To grab this, go to thedrjourney.com, go to free resources, and under those free resources, you're gonna see a Step 2 sample schedule. So yeah, you download that right there, and that'll help you go along with this video. We can talk about it together. So first off, as you go into the schedule, you start seeing it's broken up by week by week by week. There's 12 different weeks for 3 months. And to the right of it, you see the totals. Now I put totals for UWorld, AMBOSS, Anki, the Jonki version, Anki, the Anking version, Divine Intervention, Emma Holiday, Dr. High Yield, Online Med-Ed, Boards and Beyonds, UWorld Self-Assessment, and NBMEs. Those are the main resources that you should be using for Step 2. Those are the ones that are the most popular that everyone uses as well. So I put the totals for how many they are in each resources. And so you can divide that easily by the number of days you have till you test, number of days till you want to complete that. Easy to do with that, knowing the totals that are right there for you on that schedule. And then if you move on to the actual thing, on the first week, you notice the schedule has some UWorld questions for 5 days of the week. Not only are you doing the UWorld questions, but you're also correcting those questions. Now you can do that in tutor mode, or you can do that just as a whole passage of UWorld and then correcting it later. But the point is you must correct it, either through doing Anki cards, making Anki cards of your corrections, writing it down, handwriting notes, which I prefer, typing it out, or any other way. Just go through every single question, the ones you get wrong, get ones you get right, and just learn everything you don't know. Like write down or record stuff you don't know, and stuff that you, even the questions you get right, go through them real quick. If it's easy stuff, you don't need to write it down. If it's something you're like, wait, I didn't think of it this way, write it down so you know that thought process. You notice it's only 5 days of the week, because day 6 and day 7 of the first week, we want to take you a practice test. We're going to take UWorld Self-Assessment 1. Now, UWorld is going to be less accurate than NBMEs, but the reason we want you to do this is so you can get kind of an area or like a guesstimate of where you are in the journey. Now, notoriously, if you've seen my other Step 2 video on how I went from a 146 to 252, I got a 146 on this exact exam, the UWorld Self-Assessment 1. So don't be worried if you do really bad on it. You can make up so much ground from your first day. I made up 106 points, so there's so much room to improve. But the reason you do a UWorld Self-Assessment one day and the correction next day is because it's almost a 7-8 hour exam, you know? And especially if you make it real full length, because the practice tests are only 4 blocks, you want to add in 3 more UWorld blocks to that to make it full length. You're going to be spending 8 hours the whole day, 9 hours with a break. So you're going to be tired. You won't want to do too much else. And then you correct it the next day. And ideally, correcting these tests, you're going to be taking the same amount of time you took to take the test, but you're just correcting it. And then in addition to that, you have Anki happening every single day. And caveat, Anki is scheduled here for every single day of this schedule up until the last week. The reason that I did that is for a majority of people, about 75% of people in med school are using Anki, great resource to keep those small details in mind, keep them fresh. And so this is the best way to go about it. But if you look closely, it's the Jonki deck. It's not the Anking deck. The reason it's a Jonki deck, it's way shorter, it's gonna be more efficient, and you cover everything in UWorld. If you wanna know all the details, you can go check out my other video. I have a video on comparing Jonki to Anking for Step 2, and you can see all those details on what actually works. So you have that all the time. And then if you notice, I have Divine Intervention episodes for 5 days of the week and the first week. Divine Intervention, known as the notoriously the god of Step 2. He teaches everything that there is to know. And Divine Intervention, it just makes it so easy. Yes, he has a thick accent, but like it makes perfect sense the way he explains stuff. Really helps you understand things through, and he helped me tremendously. I would say about a good 20-30 points on my Step 2 came from just listening to Divine Intervention. So this is key. The ones that are built into the schedule, if you see, are built off a Reddit link of the must-watch Divine Intervention podcast. And I totally agree agree. I went through all of them. I took notes on them too. You don't have to take notes, but probably better if you do. These are the most high yield divine intervention videos that are going to apply to step 2. Go through all of it. The links on the schedule itself, and it's structured into the schedule. So yeah. And then if you look down at the schedule, you see a notes review. Now, what does notes review mean? Notes review is basically going over your notes. The notes being your corrections of UWorld, corrections of AMBOSS, corrections of your self-assessments, your NBMEs, or just any notes you took from any videos, some divine intervention notes you took from the podcast, any notes altogether. Review about 20% of them. You see, most of the structure of the schedule, you're going to be reviewing about a fifth of the notes every day. But towards the end, you start bumping it up, and then the real end, you bump it up a lot. The reason is because if you review your notes, you're going to be keeping up with your weaknesses, keeping fresh those thoughts that you had gotten wrong, or just thoughts you just didn't know when you were correcting or just learning something. So very good way to keep up the knowledge so you won't forget. So as you scroll down, you start seeing it's kind of a very similar structure, but the questions start bumping up. The amount of notes you do starts bumping up. And then as you get further and further, you start seeing you're taking more practice tests as well. And the Anki just continues, but divine intervention starts weaning out. And then once you're done with divine intervention, which is going to be in week 5, you're going to be done with all the divine intervention must watch. You can go to divineinterventionpodcast.com, and he has plenty of different podcasts to listen to on every single topic. So in the schedule, if you see every other day, you have other episodes you can build into this. I highly recommend this for step 2. If you're trying to do really well on the test, you have to listen to this guy. And as you see, starting week 7 onwards, you're reviewing 30% of your notes. So like a third of all your notes you're reviewing in a day, which at some point it's going to be many hundreds of pages. So it is quite a bit, but it's a must. Review your notes. If your notes are in Anki format, like if you have Anki corrections, you're doing Anki ways of learning, then maybe do that extra Anki deck of your corrections. But review whatever you're writing down. And then as you see, going further and further in the weeks, it seems to be more chiller. Scheduled on week 10, we have stats. There are 2 stats videos from Divine Intervention. There's actually one big one. I just split it up into 2 because it's an hour long and it's very detailed. You need to download the PowerPoint when you watch that. So go through that, take very detailed notes. He teaches you everything you need to know for stats. Now you can schedule this earlier on in your schedule when you're doing the other podcasts. The reason I left it for later is because biostats is something that I forgot very often, the formulas, and doing it right last minute before the exam really helped me keep those fresh in my head, and I was like bang, bang, bang on those stats questions. So if you're trying to be like that, I think maybe doing stats more later in your study period is probably the best way to go. And then you're taking all your NBMEs, and you're going to be ending with NBME 14 in your 11th week. Take it on that Saturday, correct it on that Sunday, and do, that's the last one. That's the last official full length you're going to take. And then moving into week 12, in the middle of the week, you see we have Free 120 scheduled. Free 120, if you guys don't know, is a 3-section sample test directly made by the NBME itself, but it's the most accurate representation of how your actual day test is going to be, because they update this with fresh formatting, fresh questions that show up on the actual test. These aren't stagnant like the NBME 14, 13, all those ones. This is fresh questions that they change up, I don't know, maybe every year or so. So it's really fresh. Just do those 3 passages. It's called Free 120 because it's 120 questions. Grade that, correct that. Divine Intervention goes through every single question and his thought process on getting them right in about an 8-9 hour podcast. Was it 8 or 9 hours? Actually, I think it was 13 hours of lectures he did. And the reason you must go through this is because there's no correct answers out there and explanations for Free 120. Yes, some third parties have it, but the way Divine explains his logic and how he thinks things through, which makes way more sense than those like written blogs online. And he does a beautiful job. And there were a lot of questions I was like, whoa, I would never have thought like this. And that probably aided to me getting a boost on my test day as well, because it was the last thing I did, listen to his 13-hour podcast. And I think it's really, really a must going through that, learning the ways, the patterns of thinking, and going forward with that. And then on the last 2 days, if you see it's pretty chill. You're not doing too much Anki, you're just reviewing some stuff, not doing any new cards, doing 50% of your notes the last 2 days. So going through every single piece of notes you have, half of them on Thursday, half of them on Friday, getting ready to take that test on the last day of the week. And there you go. That's the whole schedule. Now, I know I went over it very briefly, but if you want to dive deep into it, go download the schedule. It's on thedrjourney.com. The free resources, grab it, and you guys are gonna love it because it's so great. It schedules everything out, has all the details you need. If you have any questions, you can email us at thedrjourney21@gmail.com. If you want any services from us in terms of tutoring for step 1 or step 2, boards, COMLEX, or you want shelf prep or anything medical related, reach out to us. We have tutors who have scored in the 99 percentile, and we're here to help for you guys. So there you go. There you have it. That's a video on what a great schedule for step 2 looks like. Anyways, stay healthy and stay happy. Thank you.